I thought Washington did a great job in today's game. They've always been an excellent offensive rebounding team, and any coach that plays against Washington, that's where it starts. You can't give them those second shots. And, you know, tonight they had 18. One player, Noah Dickerson, had 6 himself. And you give a team 18 second shots, and I know the second chance points, 18 points, second chance points, it's very, very hard to win when you give up 18 second chance points. And that's to Washington's credit. And whether it be a missed free throw early in the game, late in the game, those second shots really hurt us badly. If we would have done a better job rebounding off of their miss, it would have been a much different type of game. We were very tentative against the zone in the first half. I'm not really sure why, but we were. And a lot of our 9 turnovers at the half were because of our ineffectiveness against their zone. And, you know, we played at UCLA 40 minutes and had 7 turnovers. We followed that up, I think, against Washington State with single-digit turnovers. And, you know, I think if you talk to Lorenzo, it wasn't like he was trying to turn us over. We just had a lot of really careless, tough turnovers. We didn't play well. That happens through 18 games. You're not always going to play perfect. So we had 9 turnovers at the half, coupled with their second shots. Of course, the score is going to be what it was. Matter of fact, I think we were lucky to be there where we were. In the second half, we did a much better job of attacking their zone. We played with 4 turnovers. I think 3 of them might have happened in the final minutes. So we went about 16 minutes without turning the ball over and doing a much better job against their zone. However, we weren't able to solve their second shots. So, you know, that leads to fouls. That leads to free throw attempts. And they played us really, really hard. And, you know, we have to learn from it and get better. And hopefully this week use this as a great learning experience that, you know, in conference play this late in the year, every game is a test. And there's going to be some teams that are really going to come after us because of our ranking, who we are, and what our record is. So when you're taking the other team's best shot, you have to be at your best, or else you're vulnerable. And the only thing you have to do is look around the country. There's teams losing all the time because of what I just said. It's very difficult to be good every game.
Coach, what kind of approach did you have to the team at halftime and as well as after the game?
You know, we talked a lot at halftime really about those 3 areas. You know, a couple of things that we wanted to do differently against the zone, playing with more confidence. You know, they played a few possessions man-to-man, but, you know, we scored 46 points in the second half. A lot of those points were in transition and against their zone. In the first half, we were even reluctant in transition for whatever reason. So, you know, that starts with me. If our team late in January is tentative against the zone, then I have to fix that, and we have to go back to work, which we will. We talked about rebounding, second shots, and we also talked about Marquel Combs because in any single game, he's capable of putting his team on his back and winning it. Kadeem, you know, he not only did a great job, but our team really did do a good job against him. You know, he had to shoot 23 times, and he had 16 points, which, you know, I think any time that you can do that to a leading scorer, that helps you.
Was it a longer post-game talk in the locker room with the guys because of what you were talking about?
No, you know, we didn't play our best in either of these 2 games. And when you're trying to do some of the things that we're trying to do, you have to understand how difficult it is to be ready game in, game out. And when you're not ready, then, you know, the game doesn't feel right. And you get in these tough battles with some teams that you thought, well, man, maybe you know, tonight we're going to be fine. But we have a younger group, you know, coming off the heels of our LA success. You know, we were given a lot of respect, and I think deservedly so. I don't know how well we've handled that. You know, watching us against Washington State and Washington, we've just been that little engine that could. Game by game, day by day, is Trier going to play? Looks like they're getting better, and we just kind of chopped wood. We didn't get too far ahead of ourselves. All of a sudden, to me, we're a little bit further ahead of ourselves. A lot of people saying great things, and watching our effort level, our consistency, our togetherness, we weren't near this week where we were coming in. And we have to get that back, to have great success in the second half of the Pac-12.
How fortunate do you feel then to get through these games? On the other side?
I don't feel fortunate at all. Every game is hard. It's hard. You're going to win games where you don't play well. You can also lose them. Winning on the road is very, very difficult. You watch Oregon and Colorado last night. It's just hard to get road sweeps. It's hard to get a split. And I don't feel fortunate at all. We earned the right to win both games. And we made good plays when we needed to. We did do some good things. I'm not going to spin it and act like, all of a sudden death is among us. We're 20-2. Nobody has to tell me that. And every game that you play is difficult, every home game, every away game. But I think there's always those things that you can control as a coach. And the effort level and the consistency of your approach has to be the same. And if you lose a tough game and you played your heart out, well, then I think you have to recognize that. But every once in a while, you can win a couple of these games, and you really start looking at yourself and saying, we have to be better moving forward. And I think we do. We have to be better moving forward.
Sean, 3 or 4 years ago with those teams that were ranked 1, 2, whatever, you were being chased, and you handled it how you handled it. Now it's kind of reversal, and you're talking about, is it the personality of the team that you have to kind of maybe say, now we're the chase?
Yes.
And get used to it?
No question about that. No doubt. And I think the other thing is, although I feel more comfortable after this game than maybe we would have after the UCLA game, even though we played great in that game, we've added a player, and it affects everybody. It affects virtually every possession of the game. It affects our substitution pattern. It affects how we attack a zone. Today was really the first time where we played against that type of zone with some of the combinations we had. And in my opinion, that's one of the reasons that made us tentative. I thought Alonzo, he's come out of the gates and really played great. He was as tentative in the first half against the zone as any of our players. And but if you really think about his path, that was probably the first game this season that he's played against the 2-3 zone. Usually you have that feeling in November. I really believe he had that feeling today. And we're going to be better because of it. We're going to talk to him, show him some things on film, but I also believe that's part of what we're doing. We're working through some things as a group, and it's not really a chemistry work through as much as some of the things we just have to be better at.
He was crucial to you though down the stretch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Played the last 6, 7 weeks.
Yeah, he played 33 minutes, which was a team high, and he's a really good player. He really is. But tonight. And he ended up with 8 defensive rebounds. You think about that. He had 7 defensive rebounds against UCLA. He had 8 defensive rebounds tonight. And again, he had 3 assists and no turnovers. So, maybe he didn't have the night from the foul line that he typically does. Maybe he was a little tentative against the zone, but it's really hard to say that he played bad when he does those other things. And that's the thing that I'm so happy about with Alonzo, that part of what we talked a lot about this offseason was him contributing when he doesn't score or adding to his game so that what he did a year ago, he's more well-rounded. And in the 3 games that he's played, his assist-to-turnover ratio, his rebounding, he's more sure of himself. He's done a really, really good job.
You said all these things are going on, and yet you guys, like you said, you're 22. Now you've got a one-game lead in the conference at the turn here. I mean, how does that strike you, or is that something you're not even?
We really can't worry about that. Certainly we know our record. It's so much about where we go from here. I can remember like it was yesterday, my first year here at Arizona. I think we beat Cal at home, and we were 6-3 at the turn. Some of that was that maybe, the schedule favored us in the first 9 games. But, we really rallied to win 10 games. So I think we went 4-5 in the last games, which includes maybe 2 buzzer beaters. And then we want to guard against that. We head up to Oregon. There's 2 games we're playing. Oregon State, which we've struggled at Corvallis with some of our best teams. It's a difficult place to play at. And, I hope that what we've just went through strengthens us so that we're more focused and ready, because we have to be ready on the road regardless of who we play. And then, you fast forward to next Saturday, it'll be one of the biggest games of the season based on how good Oregon is. But we can't get too far ahead of ourselves. It's about these next 4 or 5 days. And I think really learning a lot of good lessons from what we just went through so that we're much better when we show up in Oregon.
Coach, you mentioned Marquel Combs earlier. With his ability to score from each level of the floor, what are the challenges defending him in the pick and roll?
Well, he can beat you with the pass. His height and he has really long arms, big hands, so he'll follow his own misses. He'll attack front court players more like a big wing than a guard, but he's a guard. And his consistency shooting the three, to me, is striking. The percentage that he's shooting the ball. He didn't have a good night from the line tonight, thank goodness. But he's one of the great players that's playing in college basketball. Not just freshmen, but he's the real thing. And he doesn't need me to say that. I think everybody acknowledges that. And it's fun in our conference because, there's some players that are playing in our conference right now that I think as you follow the next 10 years in the NBA, that you'll all look back and say, man, do you remember when they were all in the Pac-12 in that 2016-17 season? There's some great young players in our conference, and Marquel is one of them. I'd put Lowry in that class. I would put Lonzo Ball, TJ Leaf. I don't want to leave anybody out because there's quite a few others, but I guess maybe because we just played against those teams. I think the point guard at Washington State's very good, and we just played against him. So every team seems to have a really good young player, and then some have multiple. And I know I talk about Lowry, but Kobe and Raleigh are so crucial to us. Those guys they've been rock solid, and they've made big plays for us. And it's not just Lowry; it's the three of them.
Coach, when it comes to Trier, some may say he has an advantage because he's fresh, missing out the season. Other may say he's at a disadvantage because he's got to get the rust off. A couple games underneath his belt, where do you think he's at?
Well, certainly more game experience he gets, he'll feel more comfortable, but also his team will. So I think it's not a positive that he missed 19 games. In terms of being fresh, he's practiced every game, and I guess you can look at it that way. But he's in fantastic shape. He loves the game. So whether he was playing game one or now, I think he's going to be in the same place. He's built to last.
You were talking about changing the substitutions. Keanu didn't play it all today. Is that kind of a matchup thing with him that he just didn't get to stick with?
Yeah, again, we're working through. As I said to Keanu, it doesn't mean he's never going to play, but we're trying to figure out what's the best for Arizona. And with that, we learned a little bit more today than we did after the last game.
Parker's minutes were down a little bit too. I didn't know, was that a function of turnovers against the zone or the size of their guards, or?
No, I think he's healthy. It just didn't go his way. Next game it could.
You talk about the maturity of Chance. Last couple of games he's hit that little jumper, that 10-footer. He's just gotten so much better in the last 2-3 months.
He has. Chance is one of the reasons that we've really played well recently. His field goal percentage is awesome, and he's more sure of himself. He's more confident. He's not the only one, but he didn't rebound defensively today, maybe like we needed him to. But again, you have to remember Chance is so young, and I think this experience over the last 2 games, the way both front lines hurt us, will make Deuson and Chance, Lowry, and Keanu. We played Raleigh in there some today. That they know how hard this is. We have to do a better job blocking out, playing post defense.
With 1:53 left in the game, Fultz picked up a charge, and I think Allen caused it. You guys hit a 3 on the ensuing play, and it seemed like that was a very big defensive play on a day when your offense wasn't necessarily working. How big there was a couple blocks in the second half, were these standout individual defensive efforts that seemed to kind of shift the momentum a little bit?
Well, Kadeem Allen, he's one of the best defensive guards that you guys can ever watch. I really mean that. He does it on the ball. He does it against a variety of players. He's not relegated to just guarding a point guard or just a 2 guard. He can guard really a 1, 2, or a 3. And off the ball, he makes plays as well. But I think we had 3 charges maybe against Marquel today. We drew as a team, which is good. Kadeem probably had 2 of them. But he gives you his heart and soul. I mean, there's no way you can ever question his desire or his heart. And, you know, the last 2 games, he's had 8 turnovers. So he had 3 against Washington State. He had 5 today, and you feel that a little bit. And usually Parker can offset that. He didn't have his night. So we really had 8 turnovers from our point guard position tonight. So, again, one of the things we didn't do well was that. But, you know, in Kadeem's case, he did an outstanding job. Part of why he probably turned it over is he utilizes so much energy defensively, and he embraces the challenge. So, yeah, I mean, he makes big plays. He's had 2 incredible block shots here recently, which both were called fouls. Could have gone either way, but, you know, I think the block against UCLA, he jumped over the guy. And, you know, the block late in the game today, I mean, it shows you what I mean about he's just not like a guy who guards his man. He makes defensive plays that you don't see often. And I think he's one of the best defensive players in the country. I really believe that.
Lorenzo was really complimentary of the whole defense, Sean. I mean, do you think the quickness you show and the ability on defense will carry you a long way? I mean, is that positive for you?
You know, I hope so. But they hurt us badly now with 18-second shots. I mean, it's a little bit deceptive. You know, if you look at our defensive numbers, they're like, hey, you guys did a good job. But you give up 18-second shots. I mean, that's really a problem. And we can't do that because some teams that we have remaining on our schedule are also good offensive rebounding. And you give up 18, you know, they may have some other things that pushes them over the top. So we've been good defensive rebounding. We can't lose that. I'm looking at our defensive rebounding. Kadeem and Alonzo had 14. So out of our 30, our 2 guards had 14 of the 30. Some of the other guys have to do a better job rebounding, for sure.
He was also talking about the way you force them to take tough shots. You force a lot of teams to take tough shots. What do you think about that?
I appreciate him saying that. Maybe I need to watch the film. I didn't have that same good report after the game, and maybe that's my problem. It could be. I mean that. But I have a pretty good sense of when we're really connected and tough-minded and hard-playing. And I think at times tonight we had that. But there was clearly some other times where we didn't have that. And I go back to this, that through the peaks and valleys of a season, this last 7 days has been one accolade after another. You know, I feel it even with me. Nobody even rang my phone for 4 months. And this week I could have been the guest on every talk show known to college basketball because of what we did in L.A. And all of a sudden, you know, Alonzo being back, you have to be able to handle that. And it's so much about the next day. It's so much about what makes you a good team. You have to be able to do those things game in, game out. And, you know, I'm concerned going to Oregon. You know, we have to get some of the things back that we had that we didn't do as well here in the last 2 games. And I don't mean at all to be negative towards Washington or Washington State, because I thought Washington State played a great game, and certainly Washington rebounding, man, they kicked our butt. So it's up to us to fix those things and hopefully be better on Thursday in Corvallis.
Sounds like managing praise is one of your chronic tasks, maybe? Something over your career you've learned to be better at? Or
No, you know, everybody has their way. You know, the thing about playing at Arizona, people love the Wildcats so much. They love our basketball program so much. Every game that we play is sold out, and people love to win. And when you're winning and everything's going well, they're excited. And I think they make our players feel that way, thank goodness. Every once in a while, you have to take in consideration the audience and who our players are, how old they are. And in many ways, to me, this is the most praise that we've been given. And I'm not so sure we've been as focused in our approach this week as we have been. We have to get that back. Doesn't mean we have a bunch of guys that are full of themselves or don't get along. I'm not saying that. But if you see a crack in the armor, you don't want it to grow. You want to fix it and move forward, because for a long period of time, this year's team, we've been as consistent every day as any team that I have had. And that's why we've gotten to this point, and all of a sudden we don't want to lose it because, you know, things are going well. Sometimes you need a loss to wake you up, and you know we don't want that to happen.
Have you considered locking him out of the locker room?
I'm not. No, I can't do that. No. No comment, Greg. I'm going to stop there.
I knew something on Raleigh, but he came in to talk to us about a week or so ago, and what struck me was his affable, he's just very nice, affable kid. Not about his basketball. Could you talk about that, though?
I mean, you never really know these guys until you coach them and until you really get through it. I think until about now. You get to early February, I think you know the personality, you know what makes them tick. They're used to everything. And you learn them a lot in the recruiting process, but again, not until they're actually here. But I don't think that I've ever been around a young person, and I'm telling you, Lowry's like this too, where they're the same every day. And his attitude and his work ethic and his love of the game, and I mean, Raleigh, you got to do this better, and he just gives you the same look. You know, he is a great, I mean a great kid. And I think that's what's going to eventually get him to where he wants to go. His attitude is everything. And, you know, we asked him to play the 4 for the first time today, and he's okay, coach. And he asked a couple questions, and boom, he just went out there and did it. But he did a good job today. Him and Kadeem during that one stretch were kind of a 1-2 punch, which broke the game open. But his intention is always good, and he's a focused young player for sure.